arrogant champion thought she could humiliate a young black opponent. But fate had other plans in a world where power often hides behind bright lights and roaring crowds. A single moment can expose the deepest cracks in our society. This is not just a story about boxing. It's a story about arrogance, racism, and the unshakable spirit of a young woman who refused to be broken. She was underestimated, ridiculed, and thrown into a ring designed to humiliate her. Her opponent was bigger, stronger, and celebrated as untouchable. Yet, what no one saw coming was the unthinkable twist that would silence an entire arena and leave a permanent scar on the legacy of those who sought to shame her. The night was electric inside the grand arena. Thousands of fans filled the stands, waving flags and chanting for the champion draped in red, white, and blue. Cameras flashed as the undefeated American fighter entered the ring, a woman whose name carried fear and intimidation wherever she went. She was powerful, charismatic, and arrogant, a national hero to some, but a ruthless bully to others. Across the ring stood her opponent, a quiet, young black girl from Jamaica who had barely begun her career. She was not the first choice for this match. In fact, she was chosen precisely because she wasn't supposed to stand a chance. The champion's camp wanted a spectacle, an easy fight to showcase her dominance, a humiliating example made at the expense of an inexperienced fighter. The whispers around the arena weren't subtle. Reporters questioned why such an uneven fight had even been sanctioned. Fans scoffed at the sight of the Jamaican girl, calling her fragile, unprepared, a lamb led to slaughter. Even the commentators framed the fight as a formality, predicting a swift and merciless defeat. But what they didn't see was the fire hidden in the young fighter's eyes. While the champion flexed and grinned for the cameras, the Jamaican girl stood still, silent, carrying the weight of more than just the gloves on her hands. She wasn't fighting for fame or money or even victory. She was fighting against a system that told her she was nothing, against a crowd that expected her to fail, against a history of voices that had been silenced before they ever had a chance to be heard. The bell rang, and from the very first second, the imbalance was obvious. The champion exploded forward with raw strength, unleashing a barrage of punches meant to overwhelm. The crowd roared with each blow that landed, celebrating her cruelty. The Jamaican fighter stumbled, blocked, and absorbed the punishment. She seemed to wobble under the force, her body absorbing hit after hit. To the audience, it looked like the humiliation had begun. The camera zoomed in on the champion's smile as she toyed with her opponent, strutting around the ring as if victory was already in her pocket. The commentators laughed, their words dripping with mockery, but beneath the surface something was happening. With every punch she endured, the young fighter was learning. She was measuring timing, memorizing patterns, and discovering gaps in the champion's defense. Her silence, which the crowd mistook for weakness, was in fact her strength. She was patient. She was calculating. As the rounds dragged on, the champion's arrogance only grew. She taunted her opponent, gesturing to the crowd, pounding her chest, and raising her arms as if the fight had already ended. But in those fleeting seconds of overconfidence, the Jamaican girl began to strike back. First a jab, then a hook. Small, sharp reminders that she was still standing, still fighting. The crowd noticed. The laughter softened. The commentary shifted from jokes to unease. Whispers began to spread. Why hadn't the young fighter fallen yet? Why did she still have that quiet, unshaken look in her eyes? Each round became a test of endurance. Sweat poured down both fighters' faces, but only one of them had underestimated the other. The champion's punches slowed, her footwork faltered. Meanwhile, the Jamaican fighter, though battered, refused to yield. She was no longer just an opponent in the ring, she was becoming a symbol. Every second she remained standing was an act of defiance against the script that had been written for her. The injustice of it all became clear. This was never meant to be a fair fight. She had been chosen not as a competitor, but as an example to mock. Yet here she was, rewriting the narrative in real time. And for the first time, the champion's smile began to fade. The 10th round began, and the atmosphere in the arena had transformed. What started as a spectacle had turned into a war of wills. The champion, once so dominant, was now visibly exhausted. Her punches lacked the snap they once had. Her arrogance had drained into desperation, and then it happened. With lightning precision, the Jamaican fighter saw her opening. A mistimed swing left the champion's guard wide open. The crowd gasped as a powerful right hook connected flush against the side of the champion's face. She staggered. For the first time in her career, she looked vulnerable. The Jamaican fighter didn't stop. She unleashed a storm of punches, each one fueled by the weight of years of injustice, discrimination, and doubt. The champion stumbled back against the ropes, her swagger shattered. The crowd, once roaring for her, now sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what they were witnessing. And then, with one final blow, the champion crumbled to the canvas. The referee's count echoed through the arena, each number pounding like a drumbeat of history being rewritten. 7, 8, 9, 10. It was over. The undefeated, arrogant champion lay on the ground, humiliated not by a staged spectacle, still, by the very fighter she had underestimated. The arena, once filled with jeers, erupted in disbelief. Some cheered, some wept, and some simply stared, confronted by a truth they could no longer ignore. When the young fighter's hand was raised in victory, it was more than just a win in the ring. It was a triumph over the expectations designed to crush her. It was a reminder that arrogance, privilege, and racism cannot erase resilience, courage, and unshakable spirit. The champion's legacy would forever carry the stain of that night, not just for losing, but for the way she had treated her opponent, for the spectacle she had tried to create at another's expense. Meanwhile, the Jamaican fighter's victory became more than a personal triumph. It became a story carried across communities, headlines, and generations, a story about strength in the face of cruelty. But beyond the ring, the message was clear. How many times had history tried to script humiliation for those deemed lesser, only to be overturned by their resilience? How many young black voices had been silenced before they had the chance to fight back? This fight, though just one night, reflected a broader truth. Arrogance thrives when people are underestimated, but justice emerges when they refuse to bow. As the lights dimmed and the crowd dispersed, one question lingered, one that echoes far beyond the ropes of a boxing ring. How many more champions of arrogance will fall before we learn that true power has nothing to do with strength, but everything to do with dignity, respect, and humanity?